The small town had always been a sleepy, serene place, a quiet, picturesque community where nothing much happened and the daily routine rarely changed. But on the outskirts of the town, hidden by a dense forest that could only be reached by a winding, overgrown path, stood an old stone church that had long been the subject of superstition and local legends. For the townspeople, this crumbling structure was a place to be avoided at all costs, a dark and mysterious place that had been abandoned for decades. Tales of the unimaginable horrors that lurked within its ancient walls were passed down from generation to generation, and the mere mention of the old church was enough to strike terror into the hearts of the staunchest of the locals. Some claim to have heard unearthly howls and strange sounds coming from the church late at night, echoing among the trees like the screams of the damned. Others swore they saw inhuman figures moving among the decayed pews and crumbling stained glass windows, their glowing eyes peering out of the darkness. And the few brave souls who ventured too close to the old church often returned white-faced and shivering, silent about the terrible visions they said they had witnessed. To young Hannah Baxter, however, the abandoned church held a strange and irresistible attraction. As she grew up, she had been endlessly fascinated by the tales of the supernatural that surrounded the old stone building, and she had long longed to learn its darkest secrets. Unlike the other townspeople, who regarded the church with a superstitious fear bordering on primal terror, Hannah was drawn to it, driven by an almost morbid curiosity to get to the truth behind the constant rumors. One day, a few weeks after her 18th birthday, Hannah decided to act on her impulses. Ignoring the dire warnings of family and friends who begged her to stay away from the cursed place, she set off alone into the ominous woods, finally deciding to explore the mysterious old church on her own. Making her way along the overgrown path, the dense trees and undergrowth gave way to the towering stone walls of the abandoned building. Entering the rotting wooden doors, she found herself in a cavernous, dimly lit shelter that seemed to suck all the warmth out of the air. There was a stifling odor of rot and a heavy, oppressive silence, broken only by the occasional creak of ancient floorboards beneath her feet. Cobwebs hung from the benches and crumbling stone walls, and Hannah couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that invisible eyes were watching her every step, as if the shadows themselves were alive and watching her intrusion. Ignoring the palpable sense of menace that permeated the air, Hannah began to explore the church, her footsteps echoing ominously as she made her way deeper inside. In one corner, she found an old leather-bound Bible, its pages yellowed and crumbling. As she leafed through the dusty folio, a sense of unease grew deep in her belly. The passages she read spoke of dark, blasphemous rituals, of unholy pacts made with ancient, malevolent entities. The words seemed to stare back at her from the pages as if endowed with malice. Shocked to the core, Hannah continued her exploration, turning her gaze to the ornate, cracked stained glass windows that adorned the walls. The images depicted on them were strange and deeply disturbing. Squirming inhuman figures, distorted facial features, and eyes glowing with an unearthly, malevolent light. As she gazed at these disturbing images, Hannah could not shake the feeling that they were somehow watching her, their unearthly gaze boring into her very soul and filling her with a primal, instinctive terror. Suddenly, there was a loud creaking sound behind her, causing Hannah to turn around in a panic. To her horror, she found herself face to face with a tall, skeletal figure whose sunken eyes glowed with an unkind, unholy light. With a frightened cry, she drew back, her heart pounding as the bony creature loomed over her, holding out its bony arms. Hannah turned and ran blindly down the dark, winding corridors of the church, her mind racing with panicked thoughts. Where was the exit? How could she have gotten so hopelessly lost in this place of pure darkness and unfathomable evil. As she rounded the corner, more skeletal, non-human figures blocked her path, their clawed hands reaching for her with an unspeakable, predatory hunger. Trapped, Hannah screamed in utter despair, her voice echoing off the cold stone walls. But her pleas for help went unanswered, and she realized that no one would come to save her from the horrors that had settled in this cursed place. In the end, Hannah's fate was sealed. The dark, malevolent creatures that had long haunted the old stone church had taken another victim. Her terrified screams were hushed into an eerie silence as the unholy creatures dragged her into the darkness, never to be seen or heard from again. For the townspeople, the curious girl's disappearance only reinforced the dark legend of the old stone church, a place of unimaginable evil best avoided. Though the locals hesitated to get too close, they couldn't help but shudder when they heard the faint howl of the wind through the trees, an eerie reminder of the unspeakable horrors lurking within the crumbling walls of the abandoned shrine.